Hello, today we're going to do a replay review of a 1.4K rated Spectre. And as always, the first thing we'll take a look at in this game is your item build. So, you bought a Stout Shield, a couple of Salsa Tangos, a Salve, and a Branch. I think this is a pretty decent build. You can, if you want to get a poor man's at some point in the laning stage, what you can do is you can buy one set of tangos, a salve, and 2 slippers, and then once you get the rune, you'll be very close to the gold you need to finish your PMS at the side shop here. And you don't need to necessarily get that every game, but I think PMS is a substantial upgrade over Stout Shield, in that there's a lot of games where it's extremely effective, and also because Spectre has a terrible base damage at just like 48 base start, the extra 6 agility really helps in getting last hits early. And I would say the best option to get that would be in games where you don't think you're going to go Vanguard before you get your Radiance. Now, I don't think you necessarily need to get a Vanguard in this game. Looking at the lanes, there's probably a Sven farming top, and you have Viper mid, most likely, along with a Crystal Bane support. So what they're going to be doing is likely either Legion Commander jungle and Pudge in the offlane here with you, or Pudge roaming and Legion Commander in the offlane here. Now, if you're against Legion Commander, a lot of her damage, she's sort of like Axe, in that she'll just right-click you in lane, and then when the creeps attack her, she can proc her Moment of Courage and get an extra attack on you, and that could hurt quite a bit. So I think PMS is actually quite good against her. Against the Pudge, not so much. And whether or not you want to build a Vanguard in a game depends on how much lane farm you'll be able to get, as well as how early you have to go through the jungle. Basically, due to all the shrines nerf, like there used to be 5 shrines in base, now there's only 3. And what you could do with the 5 shrines before is if you had a carry like Spectre, and you were farming the jungle camps, you could like start over here, farm this camp, farm that, farm this, and then you'd be pretty low, maybe like 1/3 or 1/4 of your health. Then you just go back to your base and you would use a shrine. And although you can still sort of do that, the removal of 2 shrines significantly lowers your ability to do this, because one common thing to do in the early game is, if you're going back to base, is to just use a shrine instead of going all the way back in the fountain. And the reason for that is because standing in the fountain takes exactly 20 seconds to go from your health to go from like 1% all the way to full. Meanwhile, if you use a shrine, that should recover most of your health and mana, and you can spend like 2 seconds at the fountain to top it off if need be, and then you can immediately get going where you need to go, shaving like 10 or 15 seconds off of your regeneration, or even more when you calculate walking back all the way to the fountain. So anyways, people use these shrines as a fountain replacement, and with less shrines, that means that these are going to be, your team's going to need to be wiser in using these. And what's most likely going to happen is that in the early game, if your team's a little behind, your team's probably going to be using these more, and then you may not have one to walk back to. And if you go into jungle and you have to walk all the way back to fountain to sit there for 20 seconds and then walk all the way back to the jungle, you're really losing out a lot of gold. And this is especially true with the jungle changes. They made it so that the jungle gives you less golden experience per camp spawned, but the camps now respawn at every minute, exactly. The thing is, if you don't kill every camp on the minute, then you're actually getting significantly less gold from the jungle. Because before, a lot of heroes couldn't effectively kill these camps fast enough for the 2-minute respawn time to really matter all that much. And anyways, yeah, again, that just depends on how early you go back to the jungle. If you're going to the jungle and you're pretty close to your Radiance, you're probably fine without a Vanguard. But if you think you're going to fall behind during the early game and have a tough time, a Vanguard may be the better option. Anyway, sorry for that tangent. We'll go ahead and start looking at the gameplay now. Let's go ahead and turn on the fog for the Radiance. just going to go ahead and skip ahead here a little bit. Okay, go to lane. You should be blocking the creeps if possible. Yep, there you go. Okay, looks like you're against a Pudge off lane. And that's the Legion Commander jungle. And we'll talk about the dangers of a Legion jungle later. We'll take a look at your laning techniques right now. Okay, you're not denying a lane creep there. That was good. Always important to make sure you get those denies now with the changes to denies, since it gives you a lot more experience. Let's go ahead and skip ahead a little bit more here. Just a quick word about farming here in general. I don't like to harp too much on farming mechanics, and the reason for that is because it's usually pretty obvious when you miss a last hit. So I usually, if I comment on something, it's usually just the exact theory or gameplay of what you're doing. Like, for example, if you missed the last hit because of something and I don't think you're aware of it, or how you could have done that better, then I'll mention it. Otherwise, if it's a simple last hit, I'm not going to bring it up because there's no point. You're doing pretty well in lane right now. You missed a couple last hits, but overall I think you're doing okay, especially for your rating. I like that you picked up a Quelling Blade. That helps a lot with the damage issues as I mentioned earlier. A quick word on the last thing under tower here. And I said I wouldn't mention this with the I won't mention simple misses, but I think this is more than a simple miss, because it's a little hard to pick up on if you've never, like, gone to a lobby and tested this. But anyways, so a good rule of thumb is if you have, like, less than 80 damage or so, if a tower is attacking a ranged creep, it will take 2 of your attacks and 2 of the tower's attacks to last hit it. So what you'll need to do is when you see the tower attacking a full health creep here, you're going to walk up to it once and hit it, and then after the tower hits it a second time, you'll hit it twice again for the last hit. You'll hit it one more time. And right here, you could have hit it, like, right there just a second ago, and then right now I'll be ready to get the last hit. And then you could have walked over here and gotten this last hit. And then the trick about this one here, because this creep is already close to these creeps, if you had last hit this one, these creeps would have walked over here and damaged this one enough for you to get the last hit with just one attack. Last hitting under tower is kind of hard and requires a lot of experience. So I recommend trying it at a lobby sometime if you get a chance. If you want, I can elaborate a little more to you sometime. But the basic gist of it is that if you're attacking melee creeps or range creeps under tower, and you have less than 90 damage, you should always hit the creeps once, and then let the tower hit them twice if they're ranged, and 5 times if they're in melee. Now, I think you were trying to get the range creep with that. Let me see. Okay. Just keep in mind that Spectral Dagger costs a lot of mana, and I don't think it's necessarily worth spending mana on to get this last hit here. Yeah, I see what you're doing. It's good that you got the last hit. I didn't actually see that the first time around, but Spectral Dagger is just such a hugely mana-intensive spell that I think you should avoid using it to last hit at all costs. Just one quick second. So I think there's a way you could have gotten the last hit without actually going up there. So what you could have done is, whenever you're in a lane and you're worried about creeps dying, like 2 creeps dying at the same time, like this creep was over here while you were over here, and you maybe wanted to get this creep first, and then guarantee this one, what you could have done is, you could have walked over here immediately, and like hit this one twice, and you do 70 damage, 71 damage to this range creep with every hit because you have a quelling. Actually, no, you do 75 damage. So you do 75 damage, and you could have hit this like twice, and done enough damage to kill it, while Pudge probably wouldn't have been able to deny you. And then you could have walked back over here and started attacking these creeps as necessary. I know you probably wanted to get the deny, but I still think that in most cases, getting a last hit is worth more than a deny. Denies are still pretty important, but when it comes to using Spectral Dagger to get a last hit or getting a deny, I would say that saving the mana is probably more worth it in most cases. You could have actually started walking up here like right about now. You wouldn't even need to walk up there earlier. You could have started immediately after you hit this here. You could have just started walking up here and then hit it. Don't be afraid to walk semi-long distances to get last hits in lane, because like this really isn't that far of a distance. If it's like anywhere from like 500 to 700 range, and you think you can get the last hit in time and walk back, I would say it's probably worth it. I do it pretty often in lane if the wave gets separated like this. It's not like you're a hero that has a cheap spell to use. Like I said, Spectral Dagger just costs so much mana. You should have stayed there to get that last hit. I guess you were trying to bring the creeps closer, but you don't need to run quite that far. Let's go ahead and get forward a little bit now. Again, I don't really like why you were using the Spectral Dagger there. It just costs so much mana, and it only does 100 damage. So Spectral Dagger really is not worth casting unless you're getting a kill or you're escaping a gank. In most cases, I think. Yeah, again, up there, you should have been right over here. You should have been getting this the last hit on this range creep up here. You could have just walked up here, and then you could last hit this creep first, like right now. Good. Then you start walking up here and kill this, and then walk all the way back down. Much more important to not miss last hits in lane. Like I would still rather miss a deny rather than miss a last hit in most cases, especially as a Spectre, because you're mostly concerned about gold. Even though experience is very useful to you, gold is still king when it comes to your hero in this situation. Let's go ahead and skip ahead of here a little bit more. I'm not sure what exactly you're saving your gold for. I think you should be buying boots now. Okay, nice. I think you should have gotten boots earlier, instead of just saving for phase entirely. Reason being because when the creeps are separated like that, you can walk between them a lot faster and guarantee yourself more last hits if you have boots. Like, saving up for to pay for the entire worth of phase doesn't actually do anything for you. It's not like you get any sort of bonus for buying it all at once. You might as well just buy the pieces when they're available. Especially because you were close to the side shop earlier when you could have bought boots. That was a good kill there. Good example of proper Spectral Dagger use. Should mostly use it when you're able to get a kill, and that was a good example of that. Let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit more. It's about 8 minutes in game. You have 41 last hits. I think you could have been closer to 50. If oh no, well, let's take a look at how that happened real quick first. Okay. You used Haunt here. Let's see what happened. Okay, so first problem is you're going to Haunt here in a second, and you do not have enough mana to use both Haunt and Dagger. So keep that in mind. That's going to be a huge problem, because it's very hard to kill someone with a Haunt if you do not have Dagger available to use, unless they're literally on their last sliver of health. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why you used it here. I guess that was because you saw the Viper. You saw the Viper up here, and you were like, oh, I'm going to kill the Viper. Well, here's the thing. It's actually literally impossible for you to kill this Viper, because you do not have a Spectral Dagger. Like, I realize you can't see what levels he has here, but consider this. Let's assume that you knew his Viper Strike was used. Now, how are you actually going to kill this hero by yourself? You have no mana for Spectral Dagger. You've got 1 level in Desolate, 1 level in Dispersion. Desolate, a 20 bonus damage is nice, but it's not going to make a significant damage difference here. You only have Face Boots for items. And this Viper, I'm just going to ignore his levels here. You know he doesn't have ult. He probably has at least 1 level in Corrosive Skin, so your movement speed is going to be slowed accordingly. And also, he's got his poison attack, which is going to, he can turn around and use to slow you, and then he can try to run away. Now, realistically, even if these enemies weren't here, even if they weren't around the area where the Viper was, you were not going to get this kill, no matter what you did. Like, look how much damage you're doing against this guy when you actually attack him. I'm not going to look at the combat log, but it's probably like something like, I don't know, maybe like 40, 50, 60 damage with this Desolate. It's really just not enough, and this was a huge risk you were taking here. You really should not be going into gank people without your Dagger up. So always keep an eye on your mana. This means you should not be using Haunt unless you have like more than 300 mana available, I would say. And even if Viper's allies were not there immediately when you haunted in, that was a little unfortunate. But even if they weren't just all happening to be around him at that point, they could all still TP in and kill you, because the moment you turned around here, Viper would have just used poison to attack on you and slowed you enough either to the point where he killed you himself or one of his allies killed you. Let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit more here, real quick. Okay, looks like you went on the Crystal Maiden here. Be careful when going up this hill. Oh, you're gonna lose him. You need to use Dagger. Nice. Oh, you're gonna pay the price though. Are you? Oh yeah, you're definitely gonna pay the price. Okay, so let me look real quick to see if there's anything you could have done to do that better. Okay, so you see the CM over here. You react immediately. You start going on her. Okay, what you should have done was, as soon as you see your Spectral Dagger come off cooldown here, I think you should have just targeted her with it. Honestly, like, you had enough vision here for a long enough time where you could just cast a Spectral Dagger directly on her, and that's a guaranteed kill. And because you see Viper over here, you could have just walked this way, and you would be completely home free. Unless they had a TP right here. Like, there was no need to wait this long, and then use a Spectral Dagger. There was no way you were going to catch up to her. Especially, because she has Trankles. Your only way of getting out of the situation was using Spectral Dagger immediately, and then getting out of there. Let's see what you do when you respawn. I'm not a huge fan of your choice to go directly into Radiance here. I just don't think that's a very good option unless you're very far ahead in the game. What I think you should have done was either go one of two items. Or actually, you could have gone one of two items or two of three items. So one item I really like on the hero, even though I don't really play her much, but one item I really like is a Ring of Aquila. And the reason for that is because it has absolutely phenomenal stats. It gives you 19 damage, some health, and some mana, as well as a handy bit of mana regen, and it also gives you some armor. The aura is mostly negligible itself, especially because you're mostly going to be farming by yourself in these situations. But even as an item just for you, it's got fantastic value, it's reasonably cheap, and it gives you a significant amount of damage that helps greatly when you try to haunt onto somebody to kill them. I just think it's a fantastic item, and I think you should have gone for it in this situation instead of going for straight Radiance. I haven't watched this replay yet, so you may turn around to get another item. So we'll see. Another item you could have gone was Magic Wand. It's just a great all-around fighting item if you plan to get pickoffs. You can also just get a plain stick instead of upgrading it, and that'll give you a good amount of a burst mana. Another item you could have gone was Urn. So Urn got changed recently. Instead of giving you 6 strength, it now gives you 2 of all attributes and 1 mana regen, a flat 1, and 2 armor. I think these stats are actually a tiny bit better than they were for the old Urn. The old Urn used to be a pretty decently common item on Spectre, just because when you get the haunt kills, you get 2 Urn charges, and that effectively means you get 800 health to help sustain you when you're jungling or pushing a lane, etc., or even get more kills with if you use it offensively. Now, with the new Urn of Shadows, you get 2 of all attributes. I think that's a tiny bit better. You're only getting about 1/3 as much health, but you're also getting 2 armor. And the mana regen is also better, because a mana regen of 1 on the Urn of Shadows means that you actually get more mana regen out of it from before. Before it was extra 50%, but as long as you have less than 40 int now, 40 intelligence, then the Urn of Shadows actually gives you more mana regen than it would otherwise, than the 50% one did. And also the true armor is a great addition on the hero because her base armor is kind of bad, so that helps. So I think you should have gone either Aquila or Urn and Wand / stick. Going straight into Radiance is kind of hard, especially because you'll lack the ability to get haunt kills without those cheap items early on, unless you're literally doing it just to steal a kill, which sometimes can be viable, but not always the right play, I would say. Okay, looks like you're upgrading your shield into a poor man's. Or maybe not. I guess you decided against it. I think poor man's this late probably isn't the play. You want to get poor man's early, while heroes are in your lane. Poor man's does give you more damage, and the damage block is better even against creeps because it goes up from 16 to 20. But this late into the game, at 12 minutes, I don't think it's a worthy purchase on the hero by now. I think if you were going to get it, you should have gotten it earlier, if that makes any sense. That way you would have been able to leverage it again late against the Pudge. Let's go ahead and speed things up a little bit here. Looks like the enemy Pudge is getting a little crazy. What you should be doing right now is attempting to push this tower as fast as possible so that you can get your enemies to respond. And it looks like you're doing that right now. Just pay attention and make sure you get the last hits. You got close to getting the tower hit, but not quite there. You should have stayed in lane here. You should have kept pushing, and you should have just killed this wave, and then your creeps go into the tower. The reason you want to do that is because, first of all, lane creeps are your easiest source of income. They're very easy to kill. They're worth a ton of gold, and your creeps will help tank them if they're in the area as well. So you won't take as much damage, or you'll take no damage if your creeps are already being aggroed by them. And by pushing this wave into the enemy tower, that forces the enemy team to respond or take a bunch of tower damage. Because when this wave gets here, it's going to take a bunch of damage, and then when this wave comes, it's going to be like right here or so. And then if it keeps pushing in, or if you come back and push it in some more, this tower is going to take even more damage. And by doing that, you tell your opponents, hey, you need to come to this lane and defend this tower, or else I'm going to eventually take it. And if your enemies do come in to defend it, here's the good part. You know where they are. If the enemies are forced to defend their tower, you know exactly where they are. You can see them in the creep wave vision, and you can adjust your own positioning accordingly. Like if you're farming here, and you see they're coming here to defend this, you know you might want to back up, start backing up, because they might come to gank you while they're pushing the lane out. I'm not entirely sure why you moved over here. You should have just started farming this camp. Also, a quick word of advice here. As Spectre, one thing you could have done this game, I'm assuming you don't do it, because I haven't seen you do it yet, but you should be doing it now, if not very soon. You should be upgrading your Quelling Blade into an Iron Talon. And the reason for that is because you're going to be farming the jungle a lot as Spectre on this portion, because the enemy's tower is gone, and going up here is going to be a little bit dangerous, so you don't want to go that far away from your tower. But if you upgrade your Quelling Blade into a Talon, you can take out these creep camps with much faster. Like I mentioned before, with the new jungle, you really have to clear it very quickly each minute for the jungle to be worth more gold than it was before. Otherwise, you're just going to get less experience in gold than you did before, or about equal for more effort. And Iron Talon helps a lot in achieving that. It's also worth noting that Spectre in particular kind of benefits from Talon a little more than other heroes. The reason for that is because of Desolate actually will affect neutral camps. So if you have one unit left in the neutral camp and you start attacking it, Desolate will affect it, and you'll kill it a lot faster. So having the Iron Talon in your inventory, so you can get the camp down to one enemy left much quicker, will help you kill the whole camp that much quicker as well. Also, it gives you 2 armor, which is pretty useful. Okay, you're going back to here to farm the lane again. I'd say that's probably correct. Like I said, lane farm is your easiest way to get gold with a little health loss. You're getting pretty close to your Sacred Relic right about now. Your Radiance timing isn't going to be great, but it should be okay at the very least. Unless you end up dying a bunch here. I think that's about as far enough as... you can maybe push this up here, depending on how safe you feel. Yeah, there are 3 enemies mid. So what you should be doing is pushing this here. Because you can see the Viper, the Pudge, and the CM are mid. So you could just start attacking these creeps and push the wave to their tower. Like, they technically could have the Sven and the Legion Commander gank you, but both of them appearing at the bottom lane at that time is pretty low, I want to say. just because Sven really wants to farm the jungle right now, especially because he looks like he's pretty far behind. He doesn't have all that much gold so far. Yeah, you have way more last hits than he does. Let's look at the net worth. Yeah, you're way ahead in gold than just about everybody. Even the enemy mid, which is doing great. He's 3-0. He's got more levels than you, but you actually have more farm than him, just because you have way more last hits. Because you're doing a much better job of farming than anybody else on the map. I'm not sure why you're walking around here. You should have just gone immediately to start farming one of these camps. I don't know if you stack this camp right here or not, but I would say you should probably avoid stacking camps as Spectre early on, just because it's really hard. It's absurdly hard for you to actually kill them yourself until you get a Radiance. And you're going to have to be real careful here, because you can really easily die if you're not careful. I'm not sure why you casted the Spectral Dagger there. There wasn't really any need to. Let's go ahead and speed this up a little bit more. Oh, nice. You got out. You TP'd out. Oh, that was about as good as you could do it. I don't see any reason to go and look back at that, since all you need to do is TP out, and that's exactly what you did. Yeah, you can't really do anything bot here. You should be going up to this jungle up here and start farming it. Yeah, unfortunately your team is just feeding endlessly, and there's not enough, first of all, you don't have enough mana to actually haunt in. Although technically now you do, because you have the Arcane Ring, but you didn't before. And also, you just didn't have enough farm to really do anything quite yet, which is one of the unfortunate parts of playing Spectre. Okay, just farming. Let's go ahead and skip ahead a little bit more. To get the other camp. Which talent did you get? 20 damage. That's okay. I think you could make a case for the armor. Because like I said, Spectre's pace armor is pretty bad to start with. Oh, damn. She only gets 1 point agility per level. Must have gotten nerfed pretty badly not too long ago. So her armor gain actually just terrible. That's unfortunate. Anyways. So yeah, I think the case can be made for the +5 armor. But I think the 20 damage is also fine. It'll help you farm more. Okay, nice. You have Radiance now. You just got it at about 21 minutes, 22 minutes. That's okay, I'd say. I still kind of wish you went for another item earlier, and that wouldn't have delayed your Radiance by a whole lot, but oh yeah, that was unfortunate. Okay, so you actually saw this Sven over here, although you may not have seen it at first. So you look over here, you can actually see the Sven on your map running this way towards your Luna. You saw him for a few seconds, but you're actually still walking towards the Crystal Maiden. I'm assuming you didn't see the Sven there on your map, because there was no reason for him to really run away in this direction. So I'd say just probably should take a look at your map a little bit more, especially when you're farming, or actually whenever you're like chasing here like Crystal Maiden. It's always a good idea to keep an eye on your minimap. That way you can look at your minimap and assess the situation on how many heroes you can see and how many heroes might be able to come there and help her at the time. Okay, you're TPing top, I guess. Oh, this was... Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay. So, just before this happened, you take a look top, and you see the Viper and the Crystal Maiden are here. You see that the Sven and the Pudge are up here, and Legion Commander is nowhere to be found. Now, let's assume that the Legion Commander actually is not here. I know she is, but let's assume that she's actually over here farming her jungle. Now, realistically, Viper has 1.7 thousand health. He has a Dragon's Lance. He has his ult up. Or most likely up. He's got lots of levels. He's level 14, so he's going to have all of his abilities maxed out, or almost maxed out. There's a Crystal Maiden with him that can use Frostbite and Crystal Nova. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you believe you can actually kill Viper by yourself? Do you believe you can kill Viper with a silencer that has a Midas and nothing else? Well, let me let you in on some information here. This comes with experience, but I can tell you right now, there's no way you're actually going to kill this Viper with only these two heroes. There's literally no way. Like, best case scenario, your sniper throws Last Word on him, as well as his Arcane Curse, and hits him with a couple glaives. Viper has 12 armor. That's a pretty decent amount. And he's got his corrosive skin maxed out, so he has 25 extra resistance. So against the Last Word, he's only going to take like 160, 170 damage at most. And the Arcane Curse is barely going to tickle him. Especially because the only spell he can even cast is Viper Strike. And when you come in there, literally all you have is Spectral Dagger and Haunt. You have Desolate, but the thing is, Viper's going to slow your attack so much that there's literally no way you're going to be able to kill this guy with just these two heroes. In order to kill this guy at this point, you need to either have your Axe call him with Berserkers and get a bunch of counter helixes on him, while the rest of you pound damage into him, or you need him to eat a full ult by Luna, or maybe Sniper lands a shrapnel and gets a bunch of attacks on him. But literally no other way are you going to kill this guy, especially not with these two heroes. Like, for example, look at this Silencer. He casted everything on this guy, and look how much damage the Viper has taken. He literally has taken like almost nothing yet. Arcane Curse is going to pop soon, but it's not going to do much at all. And by the time you get there, because your TP duration is increased for each allied hero, Silencer is already dead, and then now there's literally nothing you can do. Like, even assuming the Legion wasn't here, you would just be dead, because the Viper would just attack you over and over again. Learning this stuff takes a bunch of experience, and it's not exactly easy, and you will get it with time. But whenever you have situations like this, I think it's important to look at them and ask yourself, did I really think I could kill this hero here? How exactly would I kill them? Like, go through your mind and think of the exact situation you would have in order to kill them with Silencer and Spectre. If you still don't understand why you can't kill that hero, I think you should take the question to someone that you believe would know the answer, as in maybe one of the learning subreddits, or maybe if you have a higher rated friend, you could ask them about the exact situation. Because knowing your matchups and how you can do in what I like to call sparring scenarios is very important. And what I mean by sparring scenarios is like, you have these heroes here, the enemies has these heroes here. Can you get a kill on X hero? And there was no way you were going to kill the Viper there by yourself with the even with the Silencer. Absolutely not. Like, Silencer, he's playing a dangerous game by going on this Viper, and he took barely any damage from that, as I'm sure you saw. You guys are going to get a kill on the Legion. That was pretty good. Oh, that was... Let me see if you could have played that better. Okay. So you see the Pudge, and you Haunt. You see them go on here. You should be using your dagger I think. Letting it get away is not a good idea here. Okay, so what you could have done was... Okay. So, you see the Pudge here. You see the Legion, and you immediately haunt. And you go on the Pudge. Or do you have... Is it on cooldown for you? Oh, it actually is on cooldown. I did not know that. Okay, I think I clicked on the illusion, sorry. Okay, so that's why you didn't use the dagger here. Yeah, that was a little unfortunate you got hooked on the Pudge there. I think what you could have done is, instead of going for the Pudge, because he has Dismember, right? And if he dismembers you, then he's going to heal himself. And you could actually die. So what you should have done was go over here and start attacking the Viper, I think. And the reason for that is just because the Viper's already so low. Or honestly, I think you maybe shouldn't even have committed to that fight totally at all. Just getting the Legion was probably enough. Like, getting the Pudge there and then dying yourself was definitely not worth it. Like, you did get your team did get a bunch of gold for killing the Pudge. But you have like 40 whole seconds while you're down and you can't get any farm. That's really gonna hurt you with your Radiance. Like if you die a bunch right after you get your Radiance, that can often just spiral into losing games as Spectre, because then you're losing more and more farming time. And with each minute that passes that you're not getting farm, you're just getting progressively weaker and weaker, because enemy heroes are getting more bulk and more ways to deal with your Radiance burn and your illusions. Oops, I messed up there, wrong hotkey. Oh, you got the Legion there. That was good. Let's go ahead and skip through a little bit more. I want to make this 2-hour review. You may not want to consider using a Shrine at base. I know I mentioned it earlier, but if you're in a situation where your only towers left are your tier 3s, you probably want to save these shrines. Like before, I would have said it's probably okay if you use them, but now with 5 shrines down to 3, I think you should probably save them, just so you can have them up for high ground pushes. Because if I was in the game and I saw the enemy use 2 of their shrines, I would say, hey, we should push top or mid. Because they're only going to have 1 shrine at the bottom down here. And it's not going to be up. Or I mean, you know, they're going to have to walk a long way to use it. Let's just go ahead and skip ahead a little bit more here. Should grab TP, yep. It's a little dangerous to farm over here, especially after you saw them just give you Aegis. Oh, yep, you're gonna die. Yep. So your first mistake right now was TPing over this way, because you literally just heard them get the Aegis, and you see the Viper right here, and you see the Crystal Maiden down here. Now, the fact that they just killed the Roshan means that they're probably still in this area. Even if a couple minutes have passed by, they're probably still in it, just farming all the neutrals and stuff. So TPing over this to the shrine was a very, very bad idea. What you should have done was you could have farmed over here, and then you could have farmed your jungle over here really quickly, just so you could get it before they move over, and then quickly go over to the lane here and shove it. Because they would have to TP in, and by the time they would TP, you could just dagger away into the woods and TP out. But there was no reason to TP to the shrine over here. It was way too dangerous, and you're just asking to be killed if you do that. Yep. Let's skip a little bit further. Okay, looks like you used Haunt. That was a pretty good Haunt usage. Now the Crystal Maiden already used her Frostbite, so... Oh, nice, she went to the dual win off of that. That was pretty good. Oh. This is... Oh, no. That was bad, yeah. So you killed the Pudge here. That was a good decision. He was already low. And then you saw the Crystal Maiden use her Frostbite. So it was a good movement to kill her. And then Legion dueled you for, I have no idea. And you were safe there. So it was good play up to here. And then here is where you you messed up kind of badly. I'm guessing you were probably tunnel visioned onto the killing the Viper here and worried about the Legion respawning. But the real danger over here is actually if you look up here in your vision, you'll see that there's a Sven with a Blink, Mask of Madness, Echo Saber, and God Strength. And although his farming has been kind of poor this far into the game, God Strength can still pretty easily kill you with Mask of Madness and Echo. So what you should be doing now is spreading out a bit. The Viper here is going to die. He has less than 200 health. He's affected by the last word, which is going to do most of his remaining health, and your Radiant Spurn should take care of the rest. Now what you should be doing is you should be splitting up from the Luna, because so that you don't get stunned by the Storm here at the same time, and also so you don't get cleaved. Because the most important thing when you're against Sven is to make sure you don't get multiple stuns off, make sure you don't let him get value by stunning multiple heroes at once, and making sure you're not letting him get the cleave off on you. And I'm guessing Luna didn't see it either, so you just have to take responsibility and move away. Like, you could have moved this way, and you would have been fine. Like, if he can't stun both of you here, he probably just dies, or at least can't get a kill off, I'm imagining. Especially on you. You have quite a bit of health, but if he's cleaving onto you, then you can take a bunch of damage. See, and here he just blinks in, he stuns. Oh, he didn't even cleave on you. Anyways, so you don't want to fight him here when he has God Strength on. That was a bit of a mistake. So, as soon as you saw the Sven jump in and stun, you should have just used Spectral Dagger to get out. You only have a Radiance in the Vanguard. There's no way you're going to beat a God Strength Sven if he has at least decent farm. You should have just used, as soon as you're out of the stun, you should have just used a Spectral Dagger this way. Like, right now, you could have used Spectral Dagger this way, and I think it's safe to say you probably would have survived. Because the Sven stun isn't up, Legion does not have duel, they have no other heroes up, they have no way to catch you. So if you turn around, use Spectral Dagger, and phase, and immediately run this way, into the trees, and over here, or maybe through this way, I'm pretty sure there's no way they can kill you. Sven might hit you once or twice, and the Legion might use overwhelming odds, but you still have 700 health at this point, and you would almost certainly get away. But staying and fighting a Sven right now is not a good idea. You just have to kite him while his ult is up, and then kill him. Like, this Sven might have actually just died if you just ran. And now, because you've died, this is like the 3rd or 4th time you've died since you've gotten your Radiance. So that's another like 60 seconds that you're not getting any farm out of your Radiance, which again is just going to be setting you further and further and further behind. One quick note, looks like you're going for a Diffusal next. I'm far from being a, great Spectre player or anything. I don't play her very often, but personally, I don't think getting a Diffusal at this point in the game would be a wise decision. I think you should have gotten either a Manta or a Eye of Scotty. And the reason for that is I really think that you just need health at this point. Manta gives you 10 strength, And a Scotty gives you something like, let's see, Scotty gives you 400, so Scotty gives you 500 health and some change, so about 750 health I think it is, or 700-ish health, while a Manta gives you 200 from the strength, and Manta also gives you some movement speed. Diffusal is nice. You can use the active on enemies, but you're not really having any huge problems from catching opponents this game. I'd say most of your problems are going to be from surviving enemies that are jumping on you. So in those situations, Manta can help because you can purge certain things. Like, for example, if Crystal Maiden uses Frostbite or Crystal Nova on you, you can just use Manta, and it will immediately be removed. The slow and the root, either one, whichever she uses. And if you have the Scotty, then you just have a lot more health, and the Scotty also does help a lot with killing enemies, because the second you hit them with your main hero, they get slowed by a ton. Diffusal is kind of good against Sven because it helps your team guide him a little better, but I don't think that was worth enough to justify buying it in this situation. Diffusal is really good against teams that have very high movement speed and where you don't need to worry so much about surviving, but this team has a ton of output damage, so you want a lot of health to be able to deal with that, or at least some kind of like movement speed increase or a dispel, which Manta gives. I don't know why you walked up here. So you see Pudge here, you see the double damage, and I realize you were probably like, hey, I want this double damage, I really don't want the Sven or the Viper to get it, so I'm going to run up here. This is a huge risk though, because for one, your Spectral Dagger is on cooldown right now. You just used it, so there's no way you're actually escaping if you do get this and they can come on you. And the Pudge has his Dismember and his Rot to slow you. So to be realistic here, if this, you saw the Pudge here as well, or at least I'm assuming you did, he was on your minimap. So if the Pudge dismembers you, then you probably just die, right? Because then he has Hook as well as the Rot to bring you back and slow you. That's exactly what happened here. It's way too dangerous to go out for the double damage here when you can't see where the enemies are. And I don't want to make this review too long, so I'll just take a look at the overall game. You look like you did get the Manta. Did you get that instead? Let's go to the overview. Okay. Okay, so Vanguard, then you got that. Okay, you went back for a Manta instead of the Diffusal. I think that was a good idea. Probably better than going for a Diffusal. Unfortunately, you just kept dying there. I would say the reason you probably kept dying was because either you were not looking at the minimap, or you weren't considering where the other heroes were, or it was a combination of the two. A lot of your deaths I've seen so far have been where you actually can see other enemy heroes on the minimap, but I'm guessing that either you didn't look at the minimap, or you, for some reason, you were distracted from looking at it because you were caught in the moment, or you were having tunnel vision. So I would suggest trying to remind yourself to look at the minimap more. Playing bot games can be a decent way of doing that. I don't normally recommend bot games, but if you're trying to practice something like looking at the minimap, it can be kind of useful, because that isn't really so much as dependent on the bots themselves playing well or anything. You just need to look at the minimap and recognize where the enemies heroes are. And also, just be careful about the enemies you go onto. Especially when they have so many enemies with like stuns and slows. There was just a lot of situations where it just wasn't necessarily worth going for a kill on somebody because there were so many enemy heroes that you couldn't see. You wouldn't know where they were. So overall, to conclude this, I would say work on your mini-map and map position awareness skills. When you're doing your laning, like I mentioned before, make sure that you're moving between the creeps. Like, last hits are still worth more than denies in almost all cases. And don't be afraid to move between the creeps if there's a large distance between them. Like before, we saw there was like a ranged creep 500 units away, and instead of going last hit it, you just denied one of your creeps instead. And finally, I think you should have gotten a early or mid-game item before your Radiance. A cheap item that would help you springboard to a Radiance faster, and not only does that help you get a Radiance faster, but it also helps you fight after you have a Radiance as well. Because like if you had an Urn, or if you had a Wand or an Aquila, maybe you would have done better in those fights. I can't say for sure if you would have survived, but you would have done more damage. You would have had a higher chance of coming out of those fights in a positive way. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to clarify for you.